In every universe, there are gods who build and mortals who obey. But what happens when the smallest of all creatures, fragile, fleeting, human, decides obedience is no longer enough? This is the story of two such souls. A man who carried the weight of dying stars. A woman who heard the voice of creation itself. And the choice they made that would shatter eternity. This is the light that defied heaven. A story of defiance, of sacrifice, and the fire that even gods could not extinguish. The world of Aetherian was never kind to humanity. It was a realm of living light and dying stars, where gods shaped mountains with thought and monsters were born from the dreams of angels. Its skies shimmered with eternal auroras, a beauty so cruel it mocked everything mortal. And in that endless radiance, humanity was little more than a shadow. They called themselves the lesser race. Fragile, temporary, forgotten. But in the smallness of their lives burned something the divine could never understand: defiance. Kael Durnen had lived his whole life beneath that defiance. He was a sentinel once, a keeper of barriers, a guardian between worlds, armed with a staff carved from etherwood and crystal veins. It drained him with every spell, but it kept him alive when the sky itself tried to kill him. Lyra Vale was his opposite, wild, brilliant, touched by madness. She was born during a convergence storm, when the moons collided in their dance and rained pure ether onto the world. She could see the threads of magic that stitched creation together, and sometimes, when she looked too closely, they whispered back. Together, they were the last two humans standing where even gods had fled. The world was collapsing. The twin moons had fallen out of alignment, sending wild tides of energy crashing across continents. Cities vanished. Oceans boiled. The elder races sealed themselves in hidden sanctuaries, abandoning the mortal plane. But humans had nowhere to go. Kael and Lyra survived the fall of Solinar, the breach of the arcane maw, the death of the last oracle. They were not heroes. They were the aftermath. Two souls too stubborn to stop breathing while the world died around them. And then, one night, under a broken sky that bled green fire, Kael felt something pulse in his chest, a second heartbeat, faint and rhythmic. Lyra woke screaming from a dream. A silver sphere hung in the darkness behind her eyes, whispering her name in a voice that wasn't hers. The pulse grew stronger. The whisper grew louder. Something was calling to them. They followed it across dead lands, through forests of glass and oceans of lightning, through cities turned to ash and towers frozen mid-collapse. The pulse led them higher, always higher, until they stood at the base of the ebon peaks, the mountains that tore the sky open. The wind screamed with static. The stars flickered like dying embers. And there, at the summit, the world itself seemed to hold its breath. Between two colossal rings carved with runes older than time hovered a sphere of living light, the Lunarch stone. It pulsed like a heart, silver and perfect, cradled by moonlight piercing the storm. Lyra's eyes widened. "It's alive," she whispered. Kael gripped his staff tighter. "Then it's listening." Around them lay the bones of countless seekers, mages, warlocks, demigods, all turned to dust by the stone's radiance. They had reached for power and been burned away. But Kael and Lyra weren't here for power. They were here to understand why the universe was ending. The stone pulsed again, and the mountain trembled like it remembered something ancient. Lyra took a step forward, her eyes reflecting the light. "Kael, it's calling me." He reached for her hand, but she was already walking into the beam. The air around her rippled. Symbols ignited in her skin. And when she touched the sphere, the world fell away. Lyra screamed, not in pain, but in revelation. She saw the birth of Aetherian, a cage of light forged by divine hands. The gods had not created the world to live in it. They built it to imprison something vast, something alive. The heart of Aetherian, a sentient ocean of magic, pure and infinite. To keep it bound, they anchored its essence to the sky with the Lunarch stone. But now, the seals were failing. The heart was bleeding through, twisting the world into chaos. Kael felt it too. The hum in the air, the pressure beneath his skin, the rhythm in his pulse, the same heartbeat as the stone. "It's not a weapon," he said softly. "It's a mind." Lyra turned, her eyes glowing silver. "It's dying, Kael. The heart of creation is dying." For the first time in history, humanity had touched the soul of the world and found it crying for help. Kael stared at the endless light above him, his voice a whisper swallowed by the storm. "Then we'll save it," he said, "even if heaven itself stands against us." The storm never stopped. It churned above the ebon peaks like a living thing, veins of blue lightning crawling through clouds that glowed with dying starlight. The lunarch stone pulsed at its center, every beat shaking the mountain to its core. Kael and Lyra stood within that storm, surrounded by a power older than gods. Every breath burned, every sound fractured into echoes. The air itself tasted like iron and memory. Lyra's voice trembled as she looked into the swirling heart of light. "It's showing me everything, Kael. The Seraphites, the Dravari, they weren't saviors. They were jailers. They locked the heart away and called it order. And now the prison is breaking." Kael gritted his teeth as the ground split beneath them. "Then let it break. We'll face what comes." The stone responded, a deep, resonant hum that made their bones vibrate. The auroras above condensed into a spiral, forming a single, searing eye of light. And within that light, something vast moved. From the heavens descended the Seraphite remnants, beings of radiance and glass, their forms flickering between angel and machine. They spoke without words, their thoughts echoing directly into Kael's mind. Mortal hands touched the sacred core. "Step away, before the judgment of heaven falls." Kael raised his staff. "Where were you when the world burned? When your own creation begged for mercy?" The Seraphites' voices merged into one. "Human defiance is not divinity. You were made to kneel." The wind exploded. Blades of light scythed through the air, cutting through rock and shadow alike. Kael met them head-on, the runes along his staff igniting with white fire. Each strike tore years from his life. He could feel it, but he didn't stop. Lyra moved beside him, her hands weaving streams of ether into living shapes. She saw the energy patterns before they struck, unraveling them mid-flight, turning destruction into melody. Together, they stood as one heartbeat against the storm. The Seraphites circled above. "You cannot protect the heart. You cannot protect yourselves." Kael spat blood into the wind. "Then watch us try." The battle raged across the peak. Magic tore the sky in two, revealing flashes of impossible constellations, glimpses into realms the gods had abandoned. The lunarch stone pulsed faster, each thrum like a heartbeat gone wild. Lyra reached out to it again, her voice barely a whisper. "It's afraid. The heart, it feels everything. It knows it's dying." Kael staggered beside her, his armor smoking, his staff flickering with dying light. "Then we'll give it something to live for." He thrust the staff into the ground. The crystal veins along its length shattered, unleashing a torrent of raw ether. The shockwave rippled outward, blasting the Seraphites back into the storm. The light from the stone turned crimson. For a moment, everything froze. Then came the sound, deep and mournful, like the universe exhaling. Lyra fell to her knees, clutching her head as visions flooded her mind. The first dawn, the shaping of stars, the forging of chains made from divine fear. She saw the gods themselves, not as benevolent creators, but as exiles who feared the very magic they had birthed. And she saw something else, a memory buried in the light. A single human hand, long ago, reaching toward the heart before being torn apart by divine fire. Lyra gasped. "Kael, this isn't the first time humanity's stood here." He turned to her, his expression grim. "Then maybe it's time we finish what they started." The Seraphites reformed, their light flickering. "You cannot break what heaven has bound." Kael lifted his staff, voice steady. "We're not breaking it. We're freeing it." The air ignited. Ether surged through him, burning his veins, cracking his skin with light. He screamed, not in pain, but in fury. And for the first time in the long history of Aetherian, the heavens faltered. The Seraphites fell back, their forms unraveling. The sky dimmed, the storms weakening. The lunarch stone pulsed once more, slower now, steadier. Listening, Lyra caught Kael as he fell to one knee, his face pale, his breath shallow. "You can't keep doing this," she whispered. "It's killing you." He smiled weakly, eyes reflecting the silver glow. "Maybe, but if dying means heaven finally has to look down and see us, then it's worth it." The lunarch stone shifted its light, turning from silver to deep gold, the color of dawn. A single voice, clear and pure, echoed inside their minds. It wasn't divine. It wasn't mortal. It was something in between. You would defy eternity for me. Kael looked to the sky. We'd defy anything that tells us we don't matter. The mountain trembled. The storm split apart, and the light of the lunarch stone descended, surrounding them both. In that moment, humanity wasn't small. Humanity wasn't forgotten. Humanity was infinite, a spark burning against the dark, too stubborn to die. And far above, in the ruins of heaven itself, something ancient stirred, watching. When the storm finally broke, silence fell across the ebon peaks. The auroras faded into thin ribbons of light, and for the first time in centuries, the stars of Aetherian shone clear. But the air still hummed, low and constant, as if the world itself was breathing. Kael awoke on the cold stone, his body trembling, his staff shattered beside him. Every vein glowed faintly beneath his skin, threads of silver light pulsing in rhythm with the lunarch stone hovering above. Lyra knelt nearby, hands outstretched toward the sphere. She wasn't casting a spell, she was listening. The light moved with her breath, flaring when she spoke, dimming when she fell silent. "It's aware," she whispered. "It's trying to understand us." Kael sat up slowly, the pain in his chest deep but steady. "Then let it learn. We're not gods, and we're not slaves. We're just people." The stone pulsed, brighter now. The pulse echoed through the mountains, across the valleys, through the rivers of ether that webbed the world. And deep below, something vast answered. Lyra's eyes widened. "Kael, it's opening." The ground split beneath them, revealing a shaft of blinding light that plunged into the planet's core. The air shimmered. The runes on the celestial gates flared to life, rotating like ancient gears. And through that light came the voice of the heart of Aetherian, raw, resonant, filled with sorrow. "I remember you." Lyra staggered back. "It's talking. I remember humanity, the spark that defied extinction, the ones who stayed when the gods fled. You should have perished, yet here you stand." Kael looked into the light and saw visions, 1,000 lives, 1,000 forgotten centuries. Humans rebuilding cities while storms devoured the sky, children laughing in ruins, farmers planting crops in the ashes of fallen gods. Defiance, generation after generation. The refusal to vanish. The heart spoke again, its voice trembling like thunder through water. "I was bound to sustain them. I gave them magic, life, creation. But the gods feared what they could not control. They used me to forge their dominion, and when I resisted, they chained me within their world." Lyra's hands shook. "You're dying because of them." "Dying? No. Transforming. The cycle consumes me. Every world that births magic eventually collapses under its own hunger. The gods move on to build another cage, another prison." Kael clenched his fists. "Then this isn't just about us." "No, it never was." A vision flooded their minds, a vast constellation of worlds, each glowing like a heartbeat, each bound by the same divine machinery. Across the cosmos, creation repeated itself, fueled by the suffering of the sentient. And at the center of it all pulsed an unfathomable consciousness, a vast shadow, coiled around the multiverse like a crown of black light. Lyra gasped. The ecliptic mind. The heart's voice trembled. The architect of eternity, the one who forged the cycle. Even I am but a fragment of its design. Kael rose to his feet, his silhouette framed by the light. "Then tell us how to break it." To defy creation itself is to defy existence. The cost would be everything. He didn't hesitate. "We've already lost everything." Lyra turned to him, eyes wet. "Kael, you can't mean." "I do." His voice was steady. "If the heart can be freed, then maybe everything else, every world, every soul bound by the god's fear, can be free too." The light intensified, washing the mountain in silver fire. "There is one way," the heart whispered. "A living mind, bound to mine. A human soul strong enough to hold the flow of creation. It would burn the body to ash, but it could stop the unraveling. It could end the cycle." Lyra stared at him in horror. "You're not serious. You can't." Kael smiled faintly. "You said it yourself, Lyra. It needs a human heart." "No. We'll find another way." "There is no other way." He stepped closer, cupping her face gently. "You once told me that humans are small, but we burn brighter because of it. That's what this is. One last flame." Her voice broke. "You'll die? Maybe." His eyes softened. "But maybe I'll live on in something greater. Maybe that's what humanity was always meant to do. Not conquer the stars, not serve the gods, but remind creation what it means to feel. Lyra's tears glowed as they hit the light. I won't let you do this alone. He shook his head. You'll need to anchor the ritual. You're the only one who can keep it stable. If I falter, finish it. The heart's voice resonated again, softer now. Kael Durnen, staff-bearer, sentinel of the pale flame. You offer yourself to defy the divine. He looked up into the swirling heavens. No, I offer myself to remind them they're not gods anymore. The light expanded, swallowing the sky. The mountains quaked. The celestial gates rotated faster, locking into place. Lyra traced sigils into the air, her fingers trembling. When it connects, you'll have to hold the flow steady. If you let go for even a moment, I won't. The beam of light descended, engulfing Kael in radiance. His body lifted from the ground, suspended in the storm. His staff dissolved, the fragments orbiting him like stars. Lyra shouted over the roar of power. Kael, please. He met her eyes one last time. Tell them we were here. Then he pressed his hand into the heart of the light. The world screamed. The mountain cracked open. The sky inverted. Every living thing on Aetherian felt the shift, the sudden stillness before rebirth. Kael's consciousness expanded, flooding outward, touching every spark of life, every stone, every memory. He saw everything. The birth of suns, the death of empires, the quiet breath of a newborn child. He felt Lyra's voice in the distance, steady and strong, holding the flow together. And for the first time since the dawn of the cosmos, the heart of Aetherian stopped dying. The storm went silent. Light bathed the peaks in gold. And humanity, fragile, fleeting humanity, had done what the gods could not. They had saved creation. The storm was gone, but the silence it left behind felt even louder. The wind no longer screamed through the ebon peaks. The sky, once torn apart by chaos, was clear and endless, painted in soft ribbons of gold. The world had been remade. But at the center of that rebirth, Lyra knelt alone. The Lunarch stone was gone. In its place stood a pillar of translucent crystal, pulsing with a gentle rhythm, a heartbeat. Kael's heartbeat. Lyra reached out, her trembling fingers brushing the surface. It was warm, alive. Kael, she whispered. His voice echoed faintly, not through sound, but through memory. Lyra, it's beautiful. Everything's connected. The stars, the soil, the breath of every living thing. I can feel it all. Her tears fell against the crystal, absorbed like raindrops into light. You did it. You really did it. No, we did it. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth seep through her skin. The world around her was quiet, but beneath that quiet, she could sense the pulse of magic flowing evenly once more. The ether flux had stabilized. The chaos had ended. The heart of Aetherian lived, because Kael had given his own life to become part of it. The elder races returned from their sanctuaries, drawn by the sudden stillness in the air. Seraphites descended from the clouds, their once radiant forms dimmed and fractured. The Dravari emerged from their caverns, their scaled bodies shimmering with disbelief. They found Lyra standing before the crystal pillar, her hair tangled with light, her eyes no longer merely human. One of the Seraphites stepped forward, voice brittle. What have you done, mortal? Lyra turned slowly. We saved your world. You tampered with divinity. You touched what was forbidden. Lyra's gaze was calm, unwavering. You call it forbidden. We call it survival. The Seraphite's wings flickered. You've altered the heart. It no longer belongs to the heavens. She smiled faintly. It never did. The crystal behind her pulsed brighter, its light spilling across the mountain like dawn. The other races shielded their eyes, unable to stand before it. Kael's voice whispered through the wind. They fear you now, Lyra. Not because you've taken their power, but because you've proven they don't need it. She straightened, her expression hardening. Leave this place, she told them. Tell your people the gods will not return. Tell them the world belongs to those who live in it, not those who run from it. The Seraphites hesitated, then withdrew, their wings dimming into the clouds. The Dravari bowed their heads and followed in silence. And for the first time in the long history of Aetherian, humanity stood unchallenged, not by conquest, but by conviction. Lyra spent her years wandering the new lands, teaching what Kael's sacrifice had made possible. She showed humans how to shape magic not as chains, but as harmony, to draw from the ether without consuming it, to build without destroying. She became known as the Keeper of the Flame, the last Sentinel of the Pale Order, the guardian of Kael's legacy. Her teachings spread across generations, birthing a new era of understanding. Where there was once fear, there was now courage. Where there was once reverence, there was respect. Humanity no longer prayed to the gods. They listened to the wind, to the rivers, to the soft pulse of the earth, the heartbeat of Kael Durnen, who had become one with creation. And in the quiet moments, when the stars aligned and the air shimmered with that familiar hum, Lyra would close her eyes and hear him. Defiance is the soul of man, his voice whispered through the ages. Never forget that. Centuries passed. Lyra did not age. The bond between her and the heart had frozen her in time. She watched empires rise and fall, watched new worlds born from the old. The pillar of humanity stood atop the ebon peaks, its light dimming slowly, like a candle burning low. Most had forgotten what it was, a monument of myth, a story told to children. Until the night the moon bled. The sky turned crimson, and the light of the pillar flickered. Lyra awoke from her long silence, the bond she thought dormant pulsing once more. She climbed the mountain, her heart pounding with ancient fear. The air crackled around her. The crystal's glow was fading, its rhythm uneven. "Kael," she whispered. For a moment, there was no answer. Then, faint, fragile, his voice echoed back. "Lyra, it's not over." The mountain shuddered. Cracks spiderwebbed across the pillar's surface. From its base seeped a shadow, oily, cold, and endless. Lyra stepped back, her breath catching. No, not again. The light and darkness clashed, twisting through the air in violent spirals. And for the first time since the gods fell silent, she felt their presence return, distant, watchful, waking. The heart of Aetherian had been saved, but the gods who had imprisoned it were stirring once more. Lyra placed both hands on the fading crystal. "You've done enough, Kael," she whispered. "It's my turn." She could feel his hesitation in the hum of the world. "You can't fight them alone." She smiled sadly. "You said it yourself. Defiance is what makes us human." She drew on the last of her power, the old symbols flaring to life in her skin. The air split open above her, revealing the celestial gates once more, their runes spinning faster than before, burning with the color of starlight. Lyra looked to the heavens, her voice steady. "If the gods want their prison back, they'll have to face the ones they caged." The light of the pillar surged, swallowing her in radiance. And then, with a whisper that echoed across worlds, she was gone. The ebon peaks stood silent beneath the stars. The pillar of humanity no longer shone. Its crystal heart was empty, its glow extinguished. But in the stillness of the world, in the hush before dawn, a single spark lingered. Far beyond the sky, past the broken veil of creation, Lyra awoke in the void. There was no air, no sound, no light, only the echo of her own heartbeat, faint, defiant, human. She drifted in darkness that pulsed like the slow breath of a sleeping god. Threads of energy wove around her, each one a memory, worlds long gone, souls erased, histories rewritten. The prison of creation stretched forever, and at its center loomed the ecliptic mind. It was not a being, but an idea given shape, an immense lattice of consciousness spanning galaxies. Its thoughts rippled through reality like gravity, bending stars, bending time. Every heartbeat of every world was synchronized to its rhythm. Every soul was a fragment of its dream. Lyra stood before it, a single human, flickering like a candle in the dark. "You are anomaly," it said. Its voice was every language at once. "You are not divine. You are not eternal. You are not meant to be here." She looked up into its impossible vastness. Neither was he. The ecliptic mind pulsed, the one who merged with the heart of Aetherian. His existence was absorbed into the cycle. "He is no more." Lyra's eyes burned with green fire. "You're wrong. I can still feel him." The threads of light surrounding her vibrated, Kael's voice whispering faintly between them. "Lyra, I'm here." The ecliptic mind shifted, its tone deepening. "Defiance persists, even when meaningless." "Why?" Lyra stepped forward, the light of countless worlds swirling beneath her feet. "Because meaning isn't given. It's made. All things seek order." "Then maybe it's time chaos had its say." The darkness trembled. The ecliptic mind focused on her, its gaze like the weight of galaxies. You cannot defy the architecture of existence. Lyra lifted her hand, and from her palm burst the light of the heart, Kael's light, humanity's light. It blazed brighter than the stars, a pulse of warmth in an endless cold. "Watch me," she said. The void erupted. Across the prison of creation, the light spread like wildfire. The ecliptic mind recoiled as its chains unraveled, one by one, each world it had bound flickering free. Lyra could feel Kael beside her, his presence like wind in the light, steady and fierce. "You're not alone anymore," he said. She smiled through the radiance. "I never was." The ecliptic mind screamed, a sound that was more concept than noise. The fabric of the multiverse rippled, and for the first time since the dawn of everything, the architecture cracked. Lyra pressed forward, her body dissolving into light, merging with Kael's essence. Together, they were more than human, more than divine. They were the echo of every heartbeat that had ever dared to exist. The light became a storm. The storm became creation reborn. And through it all, one truth rang clear. Defiance is not rebellion. Defiance is the will to be, even when everything says you should not. The ecliptic mind's form fractured, its vast lattice shattering into a rain of dying stars. As it faded, its voice trembled, almost curious. "What are you?" Kael's voice answered from within the blinding light. "We are what you forgot to create." And then, silence. When the light faded, the void was gone. In its place stretched a new cosmos, vast, wild, unshaped. Worlds spun freely, no longer bound to divine design. In the heart of that newborn universe glowed a single star, silver and gold intertwined, pulsing softly like a living heart. The light that defied heaven. Millennia later, on a distant world, beneath alien suns, a young human explorer unearthed something strange buried in the dust. A fragment of crystal, faintly glowing with silver light. When she touched it, visions filled her mind. A world of storms. A man with a staff of crystal and fire. A woman with eyes like emerald lightning. A voice whispered through her thoughts. "Remember who you are." She fell to her knees, trembling as the warmth filled her chest. Around her, the wind shifted, and the sands began to shimmer with pale light, spreading outward in ripples that danced across the horizon. In that moment, humanity awakened again. Across the galaxies, in every forgotten world, in every star that still burned, the defiant flame rekindled. And though no gods remained to watch, the universe itself remembered, because humanity was not made to serve. Humanity was made to rise. The light burned on, the light that defied heaven. And so the light burned on, across galaxies, across time, across everything the gods had ever made. A reminder written in the stars themselves, that humanity was never meant to bow, never meant to fade, but to rise. Because the smallest flame, when it refuses to die, can set the heavens ablaze. If you felt that fire, if you believe in the strength of defiance, remember this name, Kael Durnen, the staff-bearer, the man who defied heaven, and share his light so that it never fades again.